774 episodes into this show. Today is the most important episode yet. Let me tell you what's changing, a little story about how we got here and why it's going to be a very, very good change for you going forward. So let me rewind a little bit. It is really kind of crazy to think about the fact, for me it is, to think about the fact that this is episode number 774 of this show. I remember before I published the first episode, I remember thinking the only way that I could get over the hump was I was thinking to myself, if one person listens to this and gets some benefit out of it, then it's worth it. Because it was like all of this inner stuff to try to get over the hump. Like, why is anybody going to listen to me? And what the hell do I know? And all of these doubts and fears and insecurities at the very beginning of this journey. And that's really what I fell back on. One of the things that I've told a lot of you guys, if you've been listening to the show for a while, I've mentioned it a number of times, certainly coaching clients, it often comes up, and that is the value in chunking things down. When things seem really big, even when the vision is really big or the task itself that actually needs to get done, it is really big. One of the best things we can do is chunk it down. So that's what I did in my mind, right? It wasn't, oh, what is the show going to be and how many people are going to listen? And I came back to, if one person listens, it'll be worth it, right? And now 774 episodes later, something like 180, 170 different countries have downloaded episodes of the show and millions of downloads. I'm so grateful for this journey. Let me really quickly rewind a little bit further because I never thought ever that I would be doing this. This was not in my life vision. It just happened. So really quickly, let me give you a little rewind in how that happened. So in the early years of my working career, I was a stock trader. I worked for Fidelity Investments for about 8 years and did pretty well. I was not happy. It wasn't anything I was particularly meant to do, other than the fact that my brain is pretty good with numbers. I was in math league actually growing up. I remember that as a youngster. So I worked for Fidelity for a while, wasn't happy, ended up leaving that right around that time. And a big part of me leaving was my son, as a newborn, had open heart surgery. That was a brutal and beautiful and layered and incredibly challenging experience for him and certainly for his mom and I. And during that time, a lot of things changed for me, so many things internally. And one of the things that changed was I knew that I couldn't keep going back to a job that at that time I really hated. And it really made me start to look at things in a different way. So then I worked for myself and struggled working various marketing things, digital marketing, and did some affiliate marketing back in the day. And over the years, over a 6, 7, 8 year period, I was changing. I was really working on myself in a lot of ways. And I started to kind of get these inklings like maybe I should talk to other guys about this stuff, right? Maybe there's something there. And it was very subtle in the background kind of feelings at first for a long time. And then I would be at the climbing gym and I'd get in conversations at the climbing gym that I was at 300 plus days a year at that time. And I would get in these conversations and somebody would be like, are you a coach? And I'd be like, no, I have a digital marketing company or whatever. It was not in alignment, right? And it started to get more clear that, hey, maybe this is kind of something that I should do. And I started to think more and more about it. And then I got divorced, which was incredibly hard. If you've been divorced, you know that. If you haven't, you can imagine. I was married for almost 17 years, which I'm so grateful for. She is a wonderful woman. I loved so many things about our marriage. We got 3 amazing kids out of our marriage. What a beautiful blessing it all was. Also, part of that blessing was as that divorce happened, one of the things that happens with divorce is it's like this cracking of our shell, our identity, because we get these pictures and beliefs about who we are, right? A lot of people identify with their job very strongly, right? It becomes a big part of their identity. I do this, right? And if we're married, it becomes, oh, I am a husband. And if we have kids, it becomes, oh, I'm a father. And so at that time, I was a father, I was a husband. I had this business that I was in, and then the divorce happened and it cracked some of those things. So I wasn't a husband any longer. And I was a father, but not in the same way, right? Because the time with them changed, and certainly some things changed through that process. So there was a bit of a cracking of that kind of picture as well. And really what I ended up doing is just allowing everything in my being to be torn down. I gave up all of the pictures over a year or two time frame. I gave up all of the pictures of who I was and what was I meant to do. And I started asking myself that question. And I started asking myself a lot of questions. And one of the questions that I asked myself through that process led to an answer, which was that if I didn't do something with this coaching thing that had been living in my mind, that it would be probably the number one thing that I would regret at the end of my life. That was like the answer that became clear to me through this process. So as I got that answer, that was it. It was like, well, okay, now I have to do it. I mean, I'm not going to live with that and just not do it. So I have to do it. And it took me a while, and I didn't have clarity. I didn't have clarity around the brand or how to really approach really exactly who I wanted to talk to and how I wanted to help and what I was going to deliver. And I didn't have clarity around that. And then I got a little bit of clarity. The brand name became clear to me, right? Holistic Alpha became clear. And I really love that, actually. It's not anything that I identify as like a personal, I'm not like, hi, I'm Holistic Alpha. That's not what it is at all. And if you've been listening to the show, you know that. If you're new to the show, now you do. What it is a very succinct way, I believe, of describing what it is that I'm trying to do, what it is that I try to teach and have been teaching now through 774 episodes of this show and thousands of coaching calls. It very succinctly sums up what I try to be in my life, right? And let's very quickly, a reminder maybe, or quickly touching on for the first time, what I mean by that term alpha, because this alpha male idea or that word alpha has lots of connotations that can potentially be associated with that. What I mean by that is being in charge of ourselves, being in charge of our own mind and emotions and body and actions and sexuality and communication and all of the aspects of our life so that we can create what we want to create with our life. Because when we're not creating what we want to create with our life, it's because we're not in charge of our own being. We have thoughts or emotions that are leading us directions that we don't want to go. We have patterns that are keeping us stuck and things that we don't want to be stuck in. Being alpha is about being in charge of ourselves, right? And that word holistic is very, very important because it has to be that. That's the only way to truly elevate our lives is in a holistic way because we are one being, right? We can't just focus on one part of our life and expect that it's going to lift up the entirety of our life. We need to look at the entirety of our life. However, here's what I discovered. So I put those first 3 episodes out, right? It was like crazy. Again, I had so many doubts. You have no idea how many doubts I have dealt with through this entire journey. So many people, I'm sure it's very easy to listen to or watch this show and think that it's like just comes natural or what. It has been an absolutely gnarly journey to work through my own inner doubts and insecurities and fear and getting my voice out there and being on camera as I started to do video and all the things. So I put those first 3 episodes out. And not very long later, 10 episodes into the show, I start getting coaching clients, right? And the very first 3 coaching clients that I get, it was, I think maybe after 10, 12 episodes, something like that. Those first 3 guys all were about something sexuality related. I've done 10 or 12 episodes. I think I'd have to go back and look. I'm ballparking maybe like 2 or 3 of those episodes were really about something very directly sexual. May have been a little more than that. Certainly was not a majority. So those first 10 or 12 episodes, less than majority of the episodes are about sexuality. But then those first 3 coaching clients that I get, that's what they care about. That's what they want to work on. And then over these years, what has happened is a couple of things have become clear. One is that, again, over and over and over again, you guys that come to me for support and brotherhood and help along your journey and speeding up your journey and getting through some of these challenges and transforming in some of these ways over and over again, the primary issue that I hear from guys, not 100%, but the primary issue is something sexuality related. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that it is just such a big issue in our lives. It's such a foundational, important issue in our lives. It very much is. We'll talk about that a little more in a minute, but that's part of it. And then I think the other part of it, and something that I've realized, is that it's also where I have had more unique value to share. I don't know why that is, but the things that have sort of come through wherever things come from in this universe, the ideas and experiences and tests and all of the things that I've followed this path, the unique part of that has largely been in this realm of sexuality, right? And so things have aligned over time to make it very, very clear to me that sexuality is it's the key. It is the keystone, right? And that's been clear to me for a while. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that over time, more and more of the episodes have either been about something sexuality related, or more often I'll sort of loop that into it, right? But it hasn't been 100%. There've been a lot of episodes that are not sexuality related at all. And from a branding standpoint, it's also not been specifically sexuality related. That is what is changing. Going forward, this show is going to be about building and harnessing our sexual power in a sacred way, in an enlivened and enlightened way, in an intentional way. And it has been about that for a while, but again, not every episode. So I know that some of you guys have found this show because you're searching for something sexuality related, and then maybe you weren't quite sure what you were going to get because some of the episodes weren't really about that. And so I think there's created, or it has created, a little bit of a misalignment. And going forward, it will be much more clear what you're going to get. So are we going to still talk about some of those other topics, things like physical training or meditation or some of these other things that are maybe not directly sexual? Yes, they will come up because it's all very connected, right? All the aspects of our life connect with our sexuality in a very deep way, and they affect each other both directions, right? So we will still talk about those things, but every time we talk about those things, every episode will be through this lens of sexuality. It will be through the lens of being a sexually powered and enlivened man. It will be through the lens of elevating our life by intentionally harnessing and healing and transforming and growing what our sexuality is and what it can be in our life. I know that so many of you guys like me are already on that journey. So it's not that it's a huge, massive change, but kind of it is, right? It kind of is. Because again, now you know what you're going to get. Now there's going to be an alignment from what guys are searching for to what you know you're going to get on every episode and how we're going to look at things to what I bring you in terms of episode topics and products and coaching and all of those things. It takes it from kind of one way to think about this is it's like this tribe is a car, and in trying to make it go faster, I've kind of had like 5 different engines, right? Different kind of topics and aspects and things that I've approached in the show. And what this is really about is focusing on the one engine that's most important and putting a turbocharger on it, right? That's what our sexuality is. It is the most important one. And when we heal it and expand it in powerful ways, our life, our energy, our confidence, all of our abilities as a man expand along with it. So now you know, here's what to do next. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the show. Share the show. Now you know a little bit more about what you're sharing, right? And lastly, leave a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this change. I would love to hear your thoughts on the show thus far. I know a lot of you guys have been around for a long time. I'm so grateful for you being a part of this tribe. So any comments about this sort of pivoting point in the show, I would love to hear from you. Sending you all my best. As always, keep stacking bricks. That's the way we build awesome things. You know how this has been built, this tribe that is growing and existing every day and becoming better every day, why this podcast exists and why it's reaching you now? Because I and you, we have been stacking little bricks over and over and over again. And when we do that over and over and over again, we build big ass, awesome castles. Keep stacking bricks in your life. Talk to you soon.